So we're joined from Flowood by my man, Dr. Kendrick Bailey, licensed professional counselor, owner of IProgress there in Flowood. We thank you so much for joining us. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, and this is for our entrepreneurship class. And we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you for taking some time out of your schedule for us today.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Oh yeah. Now, before we get into what all you do as a business owner, just take us back like we just talked. You're originally from the Delta, went to Mississippi State, went to Mississippi College. Just take us through your educational background.
Okay. I graduated high school at Riverside. It's down in Evan, Mississippi in 2000. Went to Mississippi State, majored in psychology, graduated in psychology in 2004 before I took my first tour off to combat. Came back in 2006 and got a
Wow.
master's of counseling program. Graduated from Mississippi State with master's in counseling in 2008 and worked for a few years at this counseling center at Mississippi State and then the VA Medical Center here in Jackson. And then I got into the doctoral program at Mississippi College in 2015 and graduated in 2017 for a doctorate of professional counseling program.
Wow, that's incredible. And I did not know you were a veteran, so thank you for your service on that. That's awesome. Now, obviously, there are not a lot of black male counselors, and that's not a secret, and that's not to be mean, but that's fact. So, what drove you to get into this type of work?
So I knew by the age of 11 or 12 that I was going to be in the helping profession. Early when I was like the seventh grade, I wanted to be a psychologist. And fast forward to college after deployment, I ended up going into the counseling field, and it just seemed more like home. It felt like me, and I just wanted to help everybody. So I wanted to help young men, I wanted to help women, I wanted to help veterans, and I just felt like for me it was a calling into like ministry to just help people change lives, help people discover purpose, and help people become dynamic leaders. And that's kind of what's been helped me be grounded in the work that I do. And I love it because for me, it's about having conversations, and conversations shift people just as much as therapy. So if I can get in front of a group of people and I can have a conversation with them and it can plant a seed and it can help, change their lives, that's just as dynamic as having a counseling session for me.
Absolutely, and that's so great to have that calling and be a passion. But this is a type of career that you could do pretty much for anybody. You said for the VA, hospitals have counselors. The state has counselors. There's always counseling centers. But what drove you to be an entrepreneur and open your own practice? Because this is something you don't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur to do.
So I'll tell you this. So I would say the bureaucracy of, just working in agencies, hospitals, and working for other people is you're always going to deal with challenges wherever you go. And sometimes you can overcome the challenges, with working through relationships. Sometimes you have to start your own. For me, I wanted to work with everybody. So being an entrepreneur allowed me to own my own time. It allowed me to be able to do a lot of things that I wanted to do because I teach at Liberty University. I was in the military. I retired last year, but I also do therapy and also speak to kids at schools. So that was my passion, to be out front. So being an entrepreneur, I could do everything that I wanted to do. Work versus if I work for someone else, sometimes I'm limited or placed in a box to how I could spread myself. And so being an entrepreneur is very rewarding, but you got to have a vision for how you want to accomplish everything you want to do if you're going to be successful.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that because they don't know it yet. But next week, we're going to start working on their own mission and vision statements because that's the basis of every business, no matter what it is. But, you know, the interesting thing is about an entrepreneur is you can be a great counselor. And another guest of this class is Dr. Angela Shannon, who's a respected medical professional right down the road in Flowood. And she said,
Okay.
look, I was a great doctor. I knew how to take care of patients. I knew great care because I had gone to medical school, but nobody told me anything about running a business. So what type of learning curve Because obviously your educational background is in counseling, and that is a needed field, and we need more people. We need more counselors. But what things did you have to learn kind of on your own when it comes to running a business?
So I'll tell you this, and I'm honest with people. Starting out, I was a horrible business owner. And the reason I say that is because just what you talked about, I didn't know what I didn't know. So with running a business, you have to, file all your paperwork. And in counseling, if you're billing clients, you got to be familiar with insurance panels, how to bill, how to be reimbursed, and all those things that typically big agencies have people to do that for you. But when you're a small business, a lot of the things that you typically pay other people to do, you have to do yourself. So you have to be really savvy and aware of everything that you have to do. So if I was a trucking company, I have to know about logistics. I have to know about
Yep.
miles. I have to know about loads and which highways to travel on. And as a counselor person, I got to make sure I know some of the similar things, because if I process my paperwork wrong, I won't be reimbursed in time. So you have to be really well rounded as an entrepreneur. You gotta pretty much know a lot about a lot of different things instead of just being a person that's an expert on one thing. And so now I'm really operating fully, I guess at the best version of myself as an entrepreneur, because I learned more through failure than I did as success as an entrepreneur. But I can also teach people that's going into the business now. I can tell them where I messed up, so I can try to, cut their learning curve and try to help expedite them. So that's one of the passions that I have as well.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned something, and I thought this was interesting because we talked a little bit about a target market because
Mm.
every company except for maybe Walmart really has a target market because we've talked to all these entrepreneurs and they've all said you can't try to sell to everybody, but you just said I like to help everybody. So how do you determine your target market to not overextend yourself when it comes to marketing?
Now, so I had to learn who I could help. So helping everybody, you still can help everybody, but you have to, and what I focus on now is the people that's ready to be helped. Because part of, the counseling process is getting people ready to do the work, where now I focus a lot on people that are ready to do their work versus I have to, get people ready. And, that was part of it. Sometimes you can't help people that don't want your help. You can't help people that are not ready for help. And you can't help people that don't think they need help. And so that's some of the things that I learned over time, just as a professional, but just in the work of just dealing with people and managing personalities, is you got to be okay if somebody don't want what you have. It's not personal. They just haven't made it to that stage of growth yet.
Yeah, and I think that goes in any business, because and that's what I want to talk about next was about selling, and obviously being a counselor, you talk a lot, you're comfortable speaking, but we just got through last week doing some presentations that just getting these kids up used to speaking, used to having communication skills. And not only is that important in any type of business, even if you're an employee, you've got to know how to talk to customers. But even
Mhm.
more so, if you want to be an entrepreneur, why do you have to be able to talk and sell and market and communicate not only with your employees, but mainly with your customers?
You got to be relatable, you got to be personable, and you got to know how to connect with people. And because one of the challenges with, the world today is technology. Technology is good, but technology is also bad because our kids and students are oversaturated with, I get immediate gratification. I can find the answer to what I need right now. And so that makes that sometimes decreases their ability to relate socially. So social skills are important because you got to be able to connect with people if they're gonna buy something that you are trying to get them to buy. And if you don't connect and you're not relatable, or even though you may have a great idea and you may have a great plan, I can't people can't see themselves spending time with you because you don't have anything to say. It's like you just want something from them. And so that's more transactional than relatable.
Absolutely. And man, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's so good to hear somebody else say the exact same things I say. Because look, I say all the time, you may have a great product, you may have a great brand strategy, you may have a great location, you may be the expert in that area, but if you can't sell it, you're never going to make money.
Absolutely. And that's why you gotta find partners in business too as entrepreneurs. And partners help one another, and they help each other get to the next stage. And so we gotta look for those type of things if we want to elevate our platform, but elevate our business.
Absolutely. Now, they've already given me some great questions, and I want to get to those, but we would be absolutely remiss if we didn't talk about what I wanted to talk about next. And that is, I have one young lady in here with me, and she's a great student, but I've got a room filled with a lot of very intelligent black men that are, a lot of them are getting ready to graduate high school. And I say all the time, look, we need more successful black men in our community, and a lot of hurdles are out there. And again, it's not their fault, but there's been a stigma for decades about mental health in the black community, about the stigma of stereotyping black men, and we have lost a lot of good young men to a bunch of stuff that could have been avoided had people learned to talk, had people learned to seek help, had people learned to seek therapy. So talk about why that is so important and why it's kind of one of the things your practice really focuses on.
So with young men in general, a lot of time we wear our emotion on our sleeves or we keep things inside. And so with that, if we don't know how to express what we're dealing with and what we have going on, sometimes it, creates more challenges than it actually helps us. So the things I do with young men or men in general is I give them a platform to understand that it's powerful to be able to talk about what you're going through because through vulnerability comes strength. The person that's suffering in silence may look strong, but I use this example with people all the time. If I give you a 20-pound bag or in your backpack, and I tell you to walk 1 mile, you can walk 1 mile and carry that load no problem. But if you walk 10 miles, if you walk 20 miles, at some point that load is going to begin to break you down systematically. So, your feet start hurting, your ankles start hurting, your knees, your hips, and your back start hurting, and then you can't carry the load. Well, that's the same thing with carrying our emotions. Emotions um, have so much weight that we have to learn how to release and alleviate some of the things that we have. And part of that is what you're doing with this class. And then the other part is community. We got to have people around us that help us pull some of the things that we're going through out of us. And then at the same time, we got to be pulling somebody else up, getting those things out of them. That's the whole reason that I became a doctor. It wasn't because I wanted people to call me Dr. Bailey. It was to show them that somebody from the Mississippi Delta that used to, chop cotton, they don't know what that is, back in the cotton fields back in the day, um, could one day go from that to being on the screen and teaching other people that you can accomplish anything you want, but you gotta master managing your emotions. And so one of the words I want to tell them about is being meek. Everybody think meek is being weak. Meek is just having power over your emotions, and you understand that just because I have a perspective doesn't mean my perspective is right. It can be 1,000 ways to do one thing. Your preference is just your way. And if we start to understand that there's multiple perspectives and we understand how to come into agreement, then a lot of these issues and confusions that we have in communities and with one another, we'll learn to get past it because it's okay for somebody else to be right.
Absolutely. And something I always try to emphasize, as we have kids getting ready to go to college, there are free resources on every college campus in Mississippi and community college for them to seek help. A lot of these employers, if they don't go to college, are providing free mental health counseling for their employees. So there is always willing somebody to help, or somebody willing to help. I can't talk. And then if they're still in school, we have resources that we can give them. It's okay to talk about this stuff. And I guarantee you, a lot of the times when they come to somebody about it, somebody else has been going through the same thing and they can probably relate to them more than they might realize. But, I just really want everybody to know that even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, if you don't want to be a counselor, no matter what your next steps are in life, you're going to face some mental hurdles. But there are people like you and other people that are willing to help them because we need, like you said, like, you want people to see a guy from the Delta could grow up to be what you become. Look, I'll be the first person to say times have changed in the last few decades. Your grandparents did not have the same access to careers and all this information like these kids have now. And
Oh
and
yeah.
and that's just a fact.
Yeah.
There was a time when black people in the state of Mississippi could do maybe 3 or 4 jobs, and if not, they didn't work. But there's more opportunity, there's more legislation, and there's more information out there than ever, and the time has never been better for these kids to really get a hold of that.
Oh yeah. It's our responsibility to pick up the torch what other people carry and take it the next steps and being accountable for that. And sometimes we use excuses. What I tell people, don't let, the issues that you face hinder you from still moving forward. Because somebody's been in that same situation before you. Sometimes it's just asking how they got through it, and then we use that strategy or adapt to overcome it as well.
Absolutely. Now, I'm about to get to these students' questions, but I wanted to say something on camera before I get to this. I've done over 500 guests since I started this 4 years ago. I have never once had the kids me not have to ask for questions. They came up with these questions almost immediately, and they're asking some really deep stuff. So I'm glad they're thinking about this. I did want to say that I wanted to brag about them to you, that this was that's a really big deal to me. So this first one is Caden Williams. He's in 10th grade, one of our football players, one of our power lifters here. And he asked, have you ever thought you made a mistake by becoming a counselor? And if you did think you made a mistake, what would you have done?
So when I started out as a counselor, I worked with kids in Columbus, Mississippi. It's called the Adolescent Offender Program. So it was more at-risk kids that was in the youth court system, trying to deter them and find ways from criminal offending. So I thought I wasn't reaching those kids because I didn't have a lot of success. And so for a while I stopped working with kids because I didn't see the impact I was having. So from like 2006 to 2009, I worked with a large amount of kids. And then from 2009 to probably 15, I didn't. And so I thought I was failing, but what I didn't understand is that no matter how good or how much you care or want something to change, kids or the people that I'm working with still have that personal responsibility for change. And so I stopped trying to have more power in that situation than I actually had. And I learned that they got to make a step forward with me so they can change. And then now, since 2015, I've been doing so much work with kids and I've really been enjoying it. And but that was one time I got discouraged, but I had to grow professionally and personally to understand that so I wouldn't take it personally.
Absolutely. I love this one. This is Shirai Luckett. He's in 10th grade. He asked, what are some counseling experience that have had major impacts on you, and how do you protect yourself from being too overly emotional?
So I I work with a lot of trauma clients, well, from combat to sexual trauma, to military trauma, to just natural disasters and emergencies. So trauma work is really heavy. So what I realized early on after going to combat is I had some things that I needed to work on early on that I didn't think affected me, but it really did. Because at one time in combat, I wasn't allowed, at least this is what I told myself, I wasn't allowed to deal with what I saw. So I wasn't allowed to deal with losing, comrades and battle buddies. And when I started working with trauma, I knew I still had some things to take care of. So I had to address the things that I didn't see in order to do their work because you can have vicarious trauma from dealing with so much work. So we just got to make sure, as much as we're pouring into people, we got to make sure we're having those real conversations with people that take care of us too. And it's okay that therapists see other therapists just because if I can help somebody, I still got to have somebody to keep me in alignment so I stay on that path. So that's a real part of it. But one of the things I tell people, make sure that you're filling your cup up daily, and then make sure you're sharing what you have within that cup, where When it's times that you feel like you are overwhelmed and overflowing, that's when we have to learn who we can give some of our things to and what friends or family can help us process the things that we may think are too heavy.
Absolutely. I like this one. This is Terry Thompson. He's a senior, one of our football players here. And he asked, you mentioned being well-rounded. What are some things that I can do to be well-rounded as well?
All right. So one of the things you mentioned already, sir, we have to get into communication classes. We have to learn how to speak and connect with people. So that's one. But that's something that we can practice by doing presentations. That's something that we can practice in the mirror. Anytime you want to be well-rounded, you got to get out front. And one of the things I tell people is we got to be able to handle feedback and coaching. If we don't want to grow, then it's gonna be hard to get in some of the places that we're trying to enter. But if we're coachable and we're willing to take feedback and not take it personal, that'll help us along the way. So if I give someone some constructive feedback, it's not that I'm trying to hurt you, it's I'm trying to help you see where you're vulnerable instead of just focusing on your strengths. Because that's where people will attack you at, where you're vulnerable.
Absolutely. I got time for two more. This is Robert Branson. He's a senior, also a football player here. And he asks, how do you maintain your own mental health and prevent burnout?
So man, I come from a huge family. I got cousins, I got a lot of friends that are therapists, and so I'm vulnerable with people. I tell people when I love them, I tell people when I'm having a rough time, and I get wise counsel from people that may be stronger than me in areas. So I got
Wow.
advisors, I got mentors, and then I got people that again are willing to join in the efforts to help me stay well so I can continue to do the work that I do.
Absolutely. Well, I got one more. This is our young lady, Destiny Smith. She's a senior. And she asked, what advice would you give to someone if they wanted to get into counseling?
So self-awareness, know who you are, know what area you were meant to change in this world, and then you go out and you weaponize yourself with the skills and resources to be great. So self-awareness is one. Be flexible because you just because our way is the way to do things, somebody else's way may be different. And we got to understand as therapists, it's not my job to tell you the way. My job is to help you be an expert on you, and then
Wow.
you are empowered to manage your own life circumstantial concerns and then find a target. It's like people that play football, basketball, and baseball, they got a target of who's the greatest. Well, you got to find someone that has and intangibles that are based on your value and belief, and then you ask questions and mentorship.
Absolutely. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much. This has just been one of our best sessions we've had. But before we go, a couple things. First of all, your website, iprogress.cc.
Yes, sir. So IProgress.cc, a lot of the work that I do now is it when you asked me to speak, I was like, this aligns with what I'm doing now anyway, because last year I was going into one of JPS schools and I created a curriculum to teach kids how to manage their emotions, and it's called peak potential. So this is what I want to do on a norm is to teach kids how to manage their emotions, but understand how to gravitate towards who they are, why they were created, so they can heal, they can become better leaders, and then they can learn what their purpose is. And all of that is rooted in just discovering your identity. And your identity is everything that makes up you. It's the roles that you have. It's how you see the world, but it's so much more than that.
Absolutely. And I know all your services are on your website. And I feel safe in saying most therapists I've ever met have said, look, you can come talk to me. If I can't help you, I will help you find somebody who can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because every therapist may not be the right fit for someone, and so that's one of the things I do regularly. I do consultation sessions where clients interview me, just like I'm interviewing them, and they get a chance to tell me if I'm the right fit, and if I'm not, I refer them to another expert that can help them go down the journey or path they need to healing.
Absolutely. Now, the last thing before we go, and I know I mentioned this before, but Just please let us know why these young men, especially these young Black men, have got to see that they are so needed and being successful in our society.
So everybody's an answer to a problem that somebody is going through or dealing with. And so once we discover most of the things that we struggle with is because we don't know why we were born. So if we understand we were born to be great and we were born to help other people along their journey and to help them overcome things, then we would, take more, we would be more honorable and more understanding about the things that we do and we experience in life. So we need more young Black men and women to, be at the forefront of this battle with helping kids overcome the things that they experience, but also having real conversations or no junk food conversations that move them forward instead of keeping them stagnant and help them be what they shall be instead of being what only they can see a fragment of. And so what I tell
That's
people,
awesome.
what I want people to see, I want people to see a glimpse of themselves like the person that's a talent scout or a talent manager sees them because they see the best. So everybody needs to see the best in themselves to be great.
Wow, love it. We thank you so much, Dr. Kendrick Bailey. IProgress, right there in Flowood, Mississippi. We thank you again so much for taking some time for us today.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Let me know if you ever want me to come and talk to the kids again.
We'd love to have you. Talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, see you, sir.